Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Great. So we're picking up with Pride and Prejudice, chapters 44 through 49. Buckle up. Lots to unpack here.
Definitely. We're really getting to the heart of Austen's genius in these chapters.
Exactly. We're going to see some characters transform right before our eyes. Might even change your own opinion about them.
Oh, absolutely.
So we start off with Elizabeth and the Gardiners. They're on their little trip, end up near Pemberley, Darcy's, palatial estate.
Oh, Pemberley. Such a pivotal setting.
Right. And wouldn't you know it, they bump into Darcy himself. Awkward much.
Oh, I can only imagine. Especially after everything that's happened between them.
Wickham's lies, Elizabeth's own, Pride and Prejudices.
Exactly. She's still grappling with all of that, and now she's face to face with them. Talk about a test of her composure.
Totally. And then Darcy, he does something totally unexpected. He invites them to tour Pemberley.
Wow. That's a bold move.
Right? What do you think? Is he just trying to be polite? Or is there something more to it?
I think it's more complicated than simple politeness. Remember, we're starting to see Darcy's pride being challenged. He's clearly attracted to Elizabeth. But her family's, well, let's just say their social standing and behavior aren't exactly a shining endorsement.
Yeah, the Bennets. Not exactly known for their decorum.
Exactly. So for Darcy, inviting them to Pemberley, it's a risk. He's putting himself out there, maybe even defining some social norms.
And then there's Miss Bingley always lurking in the background, just waiting to pounce on Elizabeth.
Oh yeah, she's a piece of work.
Total social snob. But her cattiness actually reveals a lot about Darcy.
How so?
Well, remember when Miss Bingley makes that snide comment about the militia leaving Meryton, clearly aiming to embarrass Elizabeth, bringing up Wickham.
Oh, I remember.
And Darcy, instead of joining in, he compliments Elizabeth, calls her one of the handsomest women he knows.
Oh, that must have stung Miss Bingley. But it's a crucial moment for Darcy. He's publicly declaring his admiration. He doesn't care what his snooty friends think.
Exactly. But just when we think maybe, just maybe, these two might have a chance, bam, Lydia elopes with Wickham. Disaster.
Talk about a scandal. This changes everything.
Right. Poor Jane. She's devastated. And Elizabeth, she blames herself.
Of course. She feels like if she'd exposed Wickham sooner, Lydia wouldn't have fallen for him.
Yeah. And who does she run into at this vulnerable moment? Darcy, of all people. What are the odds?
It's a powerful moment. It shows so much about both of them. Elizabeth's willingness to be honest about her family's shame, and Darcy's growing compassion.
He's so different from the arrogant guy we met at the beginning. Remember, he practically insulted Elizabeth at the first ball. Now he's offering comfort and support.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's changed him? Is it just his feelings for Elizabeth, or is it something more?
That's the question, isn't it?
And his actions. He promises discretion, doesn't want to add to the scandal, then he just leaves. Elizabeth is left with this mix of gratitude, confusion.
And maybe a little bit of hope?
Maybe. But she's also worried this scandal could push them apart forever.
And as she travels back to Longbourn, she feels to really think, could she have misjudged Darcy all along?
That's what she's starting to realize. She's seeing past her pride and prejudices, starting to see the good in him.
It's a turning point, right?
Definitely.
Okay, but we've got to talk about the other Bennets. What about Mr. Bennet? He's usually so detached. How's he going to handle this?
Good question. He tends to avoid responsibility. Maybe this will finally force him to face the music.
And then there's Mrs. Bennet, obsessed with getting her daughters married. This has got to throw a wrench in her plans.
Oh, absolutely. She's a master of denial. It'll be interesting to see how she spins this to fit her narrative.
This is getting good.
Austen at her best. So much to unravel here. Lydia's elopement, it doesn't just impact her, right?
Yeah, it's like this huge weight on the whole family.
Exactly. Think about Elizabeth. She's already worried about her own reputation, and now her sister pulls this stunt.
Yeah. It could ruin everything for the other sisters, too, especially Jane.
Oh, totally. Jane's so close to happiness with Bingley, this could scare him off for good.
And then there's the gossip. Everyone in Meryton's talking. Wickham's true colors are coming out.
Oh, the rumors are flying. Debts, seductions, the whole works.
You almost wonder, are people really that shocked? Or are they just enjoying the scandal?
Austen's so good at showing that, right? The hypocrisy. Wickham was the town favorite, now he's the villain.
Totally. People are more worried about appearances than anything else.
Exactly. And women, they bear the brunt of it all. One misstep, their reputation's shattered.
It's scary how much power these social rules have. And then there's Mr. Collins, his letter.
Oh, don't even get me started on Mr. Collins.
I know, right? He's supposed to be offering condolences. But it's more like a lecture.
Lydia's disgraceful behavior. You can practically hear him saying it.
And the irony, he's actually happy he didn't marry Elizabeth, like he dodged a bullet.
Classic Collins. Self-important, clueless, but he's the perfect example of what Austen's satirizing, this whole rigid social hierarchy.
Thank goodness for Mr. Gardner. At least he's trying to be practical. Goes off to London, tries to sort things out.
And this is where things get really interesting. We see love and marriage from so many angles. Lydia, she's infatuated.
Blinded by Wickham's charm?
Right? But Wickham, she's just after money and social status. Nothing romantic about it.
So Mr. Gardner, he basically bribes Wickham to marry Lydia, right?
It does seem that way, but the letter's a bit vague. It hints that Wickham might not be as broke as he pretends.
So maybe there's more to the story.
Maybe, but the point is, Mr. Gardner steps up. He's protecting his nieces, putting his money where his mouth is.
Unlike Mr. Bennet, he just seems resigned.
Oh yeah, he admits he messed up, letting Lydia run wild. But does he actually change? That's the question.
And Mrs. Bennet, she's over the moon.
Mrs. Wickham, how well it sounds. She's completely delusional.
All she cares about is that Lydia's getting married. Doesn't matter to her that Wickham's a scoundrel.
Exactly, it's all about appearances for her. So different from Elizabeth. She's relieved, of course, but she's also conflicted.
She knows this marriage is doomed.
A marriage of necessity, not love.
It makes you think, what does Austen want us to see here? About love, society, all of it.
Lots to ponder, and then there's Darcy. His involvement in all this. We still don't know the whole story.
Right. What did he do? How will Elizabeth react?
So many questions.
Okay, so Lydia's elopement, total chaos. But in the middle of it all, we see Elizabeth and Darcy. They're both changing.
Yeah, it's like this whole situation forces them to grow, to look past their own, pride and prejudices.
Right, so Elizabeth, she's already questioning her feelings about Darcy. Then this whole Lydia thing explodes.
And it really shakes her. Her family's reputation, her own future, it's all on the line. She's vulnerable.
And she turns to Darcy, of all people, the guy she's judged so harshly.
It's interesting, isn't it? Why do you think she confides in him?
I think she's desperate. She needs someone who understands, someone who might actually help.
And maybe she's starting to see him differently. Remember how he reacts. He doesn't judge her.
Right? He actually offers comfort, says he'll do whatever he can.
Would to heaven, he says, that anything could be done to offer consolation. It's powerful.
This is not the Darcy we met at the beginning. He's changed.
Yeah, he's not just talking. He takes action. We find out later he goes to great lengths to fix things.
Goes after Wickham, makes sure they get married, and he doesn't brag about it.
It shows his true character. He's not just trying to impress Elizabeth. He genuinely cares.
Think about it. Wickham, he's all charm, but he's the real villain. Darcy, he seems aloof, but he's the one who does the right thing.
Austen's so clever with that. She turns our expectations upside down.
Totally. And Elizabeth, she sees all of this. She realizes she was wrong about Darcy.
She's starting to see the real him. And she's overwhelmed. Gratitude, admiration.
But it's complicated. She's worried. What will this mean for their relationship? Will he feel obligated to her family?
Yeah. There's that line when she leaves Pemberley. It was improbable, she thinks, that they should ever see each other again on such terms of cordiality. It's almost like she's saying goodbye.
It's sad. Because she's finally starting to see the good in him. His integrity, his willingness to help.
And Austen's language, it's amazing. She puts us right inside Elizabeth's head. We feel her confusion, her hope. Everything.
Right. We're not just watching the story, we're experiencing it with Elizabeth.
And then there's the way Austen uses language to make fun of society, like, Mr. Collins, that letter he sends.
Oh, I know. It's hilarious. And awful. All that pompous talk about Lydia's behavior.
But it shows us exactly what Austen thinks of these ridiculous social rules.
And Mrs. Bennet. The way she reacts to Lydia's marriage. Mrs. Wickham. How well it sounds.
She's clueless. It's all about appearances for her.
Exactly. Austen's using irony to show us how messed up things are. This pressure on women to marry no matter what.
So we come to the end of these chapters, and it feels like the story's just beginning.
So many questions. Will Elizabeth and Darcy find their way back to each other? Can they overcome all these obstacles?
Austen leaves us hanging. It's brilliant.
It makes you want to keep reading to see what happens next.
Exactly, and to really think about the themes. Love, family, society. It's all there.
Austen makes us question everything, our own prejudices, our assumptions about people.
And she reminds us that love, real love, it's complicated.
It's not always easy, but it's worth fighting for.
Well said.
So there you have it, another deep dive into the world of Pride and Prejudice. Hope you enjoy it.
Until next time.